This is the Star Wars, the Black Series 3-pack from Star Wars, The Mandalorian. We have the Mandalorian, Ahsoka Tano, and Grogu. I picked up this set from Hobby Corner for approximately $85 US. It's a little pricey, but these are my favorite characters on the show. It was really a no-brainer for me. So given the fact that these are re-released, rehashed figures, this video will primarily be a comparison video review between two versions of these figures, the single packaged first release figures versus the latest 3-pack versions of these figures. And here are the figures out of packaging. The ones on the left are the first release single packaged figures, whereas the figures on the right are obviously the figures from the 3-pack. There are obvious differences. You can clearly see some of them right now, but we'll get into greater detail each of the differences for each of these figures. Let's begin with Grogu. So the new Grogu is obviously a new mold. He's in a seated position. The original Grogu was in a standing position. You can see some tiny feet there on ball joints. This one has no feet. Yeah, he's like in a Buddha position. He does have hands that are on ball joints as well. The cloak or the robe that he has on has some paint apps on the collar and on the cuffs, which is not present on the first release. The head sculpt is actually, I think it's a new sculpt, I believe. If you look closely, the ears are sort of at a more acute angle than the ears of the first release. Yeah, I believe it's a new sculpt. The paint apps on the eyes, on the ears, definitely more accurate to how it looked like on the show. Yeah, the head is also on a ball joint. So yeah, I love this new look, actually. I think this is the better Grogu. It's just that it's a shame he's seated. He's not in a standing position. There are no feet. But to be quite honest, if you already have this one, there's really no need to buy the set if you just really wanted this Grogu. So a little bit unnecessary. But again, if you're a big fan of this character and you collect the Black Series, this is a very welcome addition because it's a more accurate version of the child. On to Ahsoka Tano. The obvious difference is this one, as the box says, she has soft goods. She has a soft goods poncho on her. It's a little thin, but I love the way the poncho has been sewn. It just lays flat on the body sculpt, and the hood stays flat. It just folds in on itself and it stays flat on the back, so you can't have the hood there on her back without really flying about and all that. But you can also put the hood over her leku and onto her head sculpt, which is just really cool, and it just stays there. It doesn't go flying about like the previous Jedi robes. So very, very cool. I love that. And you just fold it back like this. Just make sure it's neatly tucked away and it stays flat on the back. Amazing. Now there's only one way to remove the poncho, and I feel there's only one way, at least from what I've seen, is to pop out that head sculpt and you can put it out, because this thing doesn't stretch and I'm afraid I'm just gonna wreck the hemline or the stitching right there. I don't want to pop out the head sculpt because I know that's going to loosen that ball joint. It's happened to me before, so I'm not going to take off the poncho. Apologies for those who wanted to see the figure without the poncho, but it's going to stay on. But you can fold up the poncho and it will reveal the buck that they used. It's exactly the same one as the first release. The main difference is there's a slight variation in paint apps. So you will note right here, the inner garment is much lighter shade of gray. This one's a darker shade, like a brownish gray. The outer garb, or the middle garb, has been painted with this glossy finish. This one's a little bit on the matte side. The pants look to be the same, as well as the waist piece looks to be the same. The brown on the belt seems to be a little bit lighter than this one. This one's more chocolate brown. This one's more sienna brown. The paint on the buckles, it appears to have a little bit more of a gold tinge to it, just a little bit. Her sleeves, this one looks to be lighter. This one looks to be darker. The second release also has a slightly different paint on the gray gauntlets, just slightly. This one's a little bit more glossy. This one's a little bit more matte. Same with the ones on her gloves. This one's a little shiny. This one's a little bit more matte. It's interesting that there's a contrast between shiny and matte finishes onto the figure. Onto the boots, you will see that it's very similar. And again, the second version has a little bit shinier gray finish. Also, the plastic that they used for the feet, it's a lighter shade of black compared to the first release. It's a very subtle difference. The first release has shinier plastic for the feet. This one's a little bit more dull. Could just be consistency and all that, but I do think they changed it. And then finally, onto the skin tone. The skin tone has a very subtle change. You see, if I can just show you, you will see that the newer version has a lighter skin tone, and I think that's more accurate to how Rosario Dawson was made up, the makeup effects that they put on her for the show. This one has a little bit of a glossy finish to it. It's it's bordering on tan, whereas this one has a little bit of a flesh tone to the brown plastic that they used. You will also note that the markings on her face, this one is more subtle, this one is more pronounced. And I think this is still more accurate. Also the eyes, there's less white on the eyes compared to this one. And the lipstick or the lips, it's on a darker shade, darker rouge. The headdress, a little bit darker on this one. The leku, lighter shades of blue, which I think is still more accurate than this one. I mean, take nothing away from this first release. It really looks great, but I do think the colors, the skin tone, the paint apps that they put on the newer release is a lot more accurate than the first release. Let's take a look at the lightsabers. So the long lightsaber, the plastic for the blade seems to be the same. The hilt is exactly the same. What they did differently is in the newer version, they've added a little bit of gold. You can see right there, there's a little bit of gold. There's a lighter wash on this part of the hilt. It's a darker wash over here compared to the lighter shade right here. A little bit more glossier finish, shinier finish on the second version. I think the second version seems to be a little bit better than the first version. The second blade, or the smaller blade, they didn't change much. The silver is just more metallic, or a little bit shinier on the second version. I personally think that this new Ahsoka is better. The main issue I have is that the poncho is very difficult to remove without really popping off that head sculpt. And as such, I don't think I can get rid of this first version, because this first version is going to be my stand-in for Ahsoka without the poncho, and this is Ahsoka with the poncho. I just don't want to risk ruining the figure by removing that head sculpt. So, it's a silly excuse to keep both figures, but I'm really a big fan of Ahsoka, and it's like a Luke Skywalker figure for me. I have to get as many Luke Skywalker figures from the Black Series as I possibly can. All the versions and all that. And I think I'm going to keep both of these. But if you have this figure already, you know what? And you're a big fan of the character, you collect the Black Series, you owe it to yourself to really pick up this second version. I mean, it's not just for the sake of double dipping into the figure and just getting two of the same character. It really is, it's really a good version of the character, despite being a rehashed figure. And now on to Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. There are a ton of differences, particularly in terms of paint apps and paint scheme for this figure. The obvious difference is the first release has a backpack, the jetpack, whereas the second release does not have a jetpack, but instead has that Mandalorian or Beskar spear, which was really such a cool weapon, cool accessory. I love the sculpt on this one. The Spear of Destiny. No, I'm kidding. The Mandalorian Beskar spear. The main issue I have with this is, well, aside from the fact that it's a little pliable, it's molded in this glossy, shiny, gray, sort of gunmetal gray plastic, and they didn't paint it. I kind of wish they could have painted this. If they had painted this one, this accessory, in the same color as this helmet, man, this would have been a stellar accessory. But it doesn't look bad. It's just that I wish it could have been better with extra paint apps. Anyway, it clips onto this clip right here on his back. You can remove it. And can he hold it? That was the thing. It's it'll be loose on his hand. Yeah, it's a little loose on both fists. Yeah, it's a shame. New blaster is exactly the same mold as the previous blaster. This is a previous blaster. You will see more color accurate paint apps or molding on the new disintegrator blaster. The silver paint apps, I think, are a lot better on this new version. It's a lot more silver because the first one has some hints of, I don't know, it's like a dark silver, a little bit of gold actually. There's gold sparkle or sheen to it. This one's a little bit more, it's a lot shinier actually than this one. This one feels like it's a little bit more metal. This one is just like fresh off the factory. The barrel, you can see, slight difference, lighter shade. The scope, same thing. The silver that they used for the middle section of the blaster, this one's a little darker. This one has a little bit of a bronze tinge to it. See right there, this is more silver. And the stock, this one, lighter shade of brown. I think this is more accurate. This one's a darker shade of brown, but it's exactly the same gun. I do prefer the second version. On to the blaster pistol. Main difference again, paint apps. You will see that there's a slight difference in silver. This one is just plain silver. This one has that bronze tinge to it, which I do prefer. The handle is a lighter shade of brown, much like the stock or the handle of the rifle. Let's look at the cape. The first version of the cape just falls almost at the center, whereas the second version, they've remolded it so that it falls off to his shoulder, off to his, I guess, his right side. And you can see it right here up in front. It's just draping over his shoulder more than this one. And this is to give space for that clip for the spear. So yeah, I do like this. When I first saw it, I was like, oh wow, it's off to the side. That will expose that peg hole much better. I don't have to get soft goods, a custom soft goods cape for this figure. And hopefully, if you get the backpack, you can plug it in. But alas, it kind of just works because here's the thing. The backpack has 3 pegs, and it's these 2 smaller pegs peg on these peg holes right here and right here. And sadly, this peg hole right here has been used as a peg hole for the clip for the spear, and there's no way around it. And I was kind of hoping I'd get rid of this figure and I just get the backpack and then just pop this backpack right here, and you can clearly see that that peg, that clip, is just in the way of this other peg, which is a shame because it would have been nice to have a backpack fit onto this new mold, because the cape is just positioned very nicely off to the side, and you don't have to get soft goods, and it will kind of work like. But sadly, it doesn't work. And that's probably intentional, I think, on the part of Hasbro, because they want you to keep this first release and buy the second release and have two Mandalorian figures in your collection. On to the actual figure itself. At first glance, it looks the same with a slight difference in paint apps. You will note that they've actually painted this new figure with a shinier coat of silver. I think the first version did not have paint apps. I think this is the molded in plastic. This one's just really painted beautifully. You can see that shine, that luster that this new helmet has. Also, that black paint that they used for the visor, a lot more shinier than this one. And I'm just so glad that this one didn't have any quality issues, no overpainting here and there or smudging. It's spot on. I just got really lucky with this set. Also, you can see the Beskar armor, a lot shinier than this one. This one just needs a little bit more buffing. You can see even the shoulder pads. You can see right here, the newer version has shinier Beskar armor. Same with the gauntlet. You can see this one's a little bit more shinier. Also, you will note that the flesh tone on his glove is actually a lot more accurate than the flesh tone that they used for this one. This is actually the color of the glove. I don't think these are cut off gloves. When you go look at and watch the show, you can see that it's a full-on glove that's just colored tan. This one is more flesh. This one is more camel. It actually is closer to how it looked like on the show. One obvious change that they made with this new figure mold is that they remolded the right thigh's Beskar armor. You can clearly see that it's a brand new mold with a lot more detailing. The shape is different. And it does not have that brown and silver paint, which I honestly thought was a little bit annoying on the first release. I do prefer this cleaner look. The left thigh's Beskar armor, a lot more shinier silver paint. Also, they repainted the knee guards. You see the change in paint. It's got a red paint right here on the right knee guard. This one, instead of chocolate brown, they painted it in this really nice blue. The boots also been painted differently. This is olive green and beige tan brown. A lot more browns on this other boot, chocolate brown. The feet are done in a lighter shade of brown. Let me just show it off. Yep, this one's darker. This one's a little bit lighter. So a lot of differences in terms of paint apps for this new Mandalorian figure. Also, on my copy, the leg seems to be a little bit skewed outward. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the packaging or assembly, but it's not as straight as I want it to be. You can see right here, it's a little skewed outward. Probably just a quality issue. I'm pretty sure if you guys get yours, it's gonna be no problem on that area. So, mold degradation. Very tight. Again, just like Ahsoka. It feels like the joints are much tighter and they've really protected that mold. So well done, Hasbro. And if you ask me, I think this is the better Mandalorian figure. It's got better paint apps. It's more accurate. The color scheme looks more accurate to how he looked like on the show. The only problem is he can't wear a jetpack, which this figure can. So, man, I think I'm going to end up keeping both. And so some final thoughts on this Black Series 3-pack of the Mandalorian, Grogu, and Ahsoka Tano. I really enjoyed this set. I think these are the best versions of these figures in the entire Black Series line. I mean, if you already have the previous versions, even if you have the first releases of these figures, but you're a big fan of the Black Series and you love these characters, I think you owe it to yourself to purchase this 3-pack because these figures are amazing. They are the improved versions of these figures. They are more show accurate. The paint apps are amazing. They've got great accessories. They're just a little bit overpriced. I'll give you that. They're going for about the price of 3 regular sized figures, but you're getting about 2 regular sized figures and accessories. So I don't know if that would be enough, if the characters are enough to justify that price point. But I'm happy. I'm honestly happy with my $85 purchase. Just, I think, don't pay too much for this figure. Don't pay more than $85. I think $85 should be the price ceiling for this figure or this set. The set is going to get a 10 out of 10. I was really blown away with this. I honestly thought I would get rid of one figure over the other, but it looks like I'll be keeping both versions of these figures. So let me know in the comment section what you guys think of this Star Wars The Black Series 3-pack featuring Din Djarin as the Mandalorian, the child, Grogu, and Ahsoka Tano. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.